This is Science 8 readings for Lesson 3.2 WCS. The name of this article is called The Water Cycle, From the Sky to the Land and Back Again. The purpose for reading this article is to answer the question, what causes precipitation and how does this water return to the clouds? Life as we know it could not exist without water. Living things such as plants and animals need water. There's a limited supply of it. Think about the river that flows through your area. Unless you live in a place that has a very dry climate, the river usually has plenty of water, even though the water moves in only one direction. Why doesn't the river run dry? Water moves through the environment in a cycle. That is, it's always changing form. Freezing, melting, evaporating, condensating, falling back to earth as precipitation. Over and over again. The water cycle is nature's perfect recycling project. If you notice in this paragraph, you have your first bold vocabulary word. If you could please circle the word precipitation and write the definition in the margin. Precipitation is water falling to the ground, and some examples would be snow, rain, and sleet. Next, if you could please underline the last sentence in that paragraph. The water cycle is nature's perfect recycling project. So the water cycle is nature's perfect recycling project because there's a limited amount of water that's reused and moves around the earth. So for example, the water cycle is a perfect recycling project because ocean water heats up and evaporates into water vapor. As the water vapor is going up, it cools and condenses and becomes clouds. These clouds move and rain on land, and the rain eventually runs into rivers, and then eventually it goes back into the ocean, and then the whole process starts all over again. Water may be found in three phases during this cycle: solid, liquid, and gas. It is easy to see water when it is in its solid and liquid phases. In these phases, the water particles are close enough to each other that the large collection of them can be detected with the human eye. We see solid water as snow, ice, hail, and frost, and liquid water as rain, condensation, or in the bodies of water like lakes, rivers, and oceans. So the first thing to underline is the words solid, liquid, and gas. And in the margin, I need you to write that these are the three phases of water. Next, I need you to underline the part where it says, in its solid and liquid phases, the water molecules are close enough to each other that you can see them with the human eye. So in the margin next to this, if you could draw the picture of liquid with green molecules, please. And the reason why you can see these molecules is because the molecules are slower and they're closer together. Next, if you could please draw the picture of ice with the green molecules there. And the reason why you can see ice is because the molecules are not moving much and they're really tightly packed together. Please turn the page. Water is also present in air as water vapor. The water particles, also called molecules, in water vapor are separate and invisible. If water vapor is invisible, why can't we see clouds? You may be surprised to learn that clouds are made up of liquids or tiny particles of ice and not water vapor. When water vapor is cooled, the water molecules get close together in a process called condensation and eventually form tiny droplets of water. These droplets combine with others to form large droplets. As long as these droplets stay small, they remain suspended, held up, in the air as clouds or at ground level as fog. If you could please circle the bold vocabulary word of clouds and write the definition in the margin. Clouds are made up of ice, water, and dust. That's why you can see them. If you could also please underline the stuff that says, if you could please underline the part that says water vapor is invisible. And you need to write that clouds are not made of water vapor. Because you remember, water vapor is a gas. And clouds clearly are not made of water vapor because water vapor is gas that you can't see, and you can see clouds. So clouds are made up of ice and water and dust. Another vocabulary word is condensation. Could you please circle condensation and write the definition in the margin? Condensation is when water vapor, a gas, cools to a liquid. As these droplets get bigger, they become heavier and they may eventually fall from the clouds as rain or under very cold conditions as ice in the form of sleet, hail, or snow. This process is called precipitation. Once the precipitation reaches the ground level, it can take many paths. It can fall directly onto streams, lakes, or oceans. It can fall on land. It may soak into the soil. Once in the soil, it may be taken up by plants, flow beneath the soil surface to eventually join surface water, or seep into the spaces in the rock that lies beneath the soil. It may be used by people for drinking, washing, preparing food, and many other purposes. Most of the water eventually returns to the air through evaporation, turning from liquid water to water vapor. One special type of evaporation called transpiration. Transpiration is evaporation from the surface of plants. Plants take up water through their roots and then release water through their leaves. The air near the ground, which contains lots of water vapor, rises as it is pushed up by cooler, denser air moving downward. As the air rises, it expands and cools. The water vapor in the cooling air condenses. It once again forms clouds. The water cycle is complete and starts all over again. Okay, we need to circle a vocabulary word, evaporation, and then we need to write the definition in the margin. So evaporation is when liquid, like water, heats up and turns to gas, like a water vapor. So here what we're talking about is the water heats up and its molecules start moving faster and farther apart, and then eventually it turns into a gas. The next vocabulary word I'd like you to circle is transpiration and put the definition on the side. Transpiration is when water evaporates from plant leaves and basically that water turns into water vapor. The next thing that I'd like you to underline is that the air near the ground, which contains lots of water vapor, rises as it's pushed up by cooler, denser air moving downward. Here I would like you to note that warm air rises and cool air falls. Think about your house. It's warmer on the upper floors because warm air rises, and it's cooler downstairs because cool air falls or goes down. The water cycle is even taking place on our own bodies. Every time we breathe, we are releasing water into the air. On a cold day, we can sometimes see our breath, and as the water vapor condenses when it contacts the cold air, we can also detect the water in our breath when we breathe into a cool surface such as a car window. Water also leaves our bodies as sweat, which evaporates into the air, cooling us down in the process. End of recording.